So it's kind of like a parent watching a child, right? You're going to see it's like, well, they can do a lot of stuff here and there. I mean, they get hurt a little, they get scratched up, it's okay. But, if they're going to fall off that ledge, they're going to die. So basically your higher self just comes in and like kicks out your intuition, and it kicks off your emotions, and then it takes over. And then that's where that's where you think your intuition and your emotion was right.
We've often heard the term listen to your intuition. And just moments ago, as Mas and I were getting ready to bring you this episode of Exponential Intelligence today, we were debating, how do we want to start this conversation? We were almost half joking that, listen, you've almost, you better quit before you're ahead, kind of a thing. Intuition is something that we're going to unpack on today's episode, but Mas has a very unique perspective and point of view on what intuition is. So Mas, I want to turn it over to you to start talking about this topic. Is there such a thing as intuition, or is that just,
Oh, absolutely.
There is. Okay. So explain to us,
Yes.
what is that? What is intuition really?
Intuition is where you get, say, knowledge from some aspect of yourself, whether it's an internal knowledge, or you get a feeling, or you get an emotion, or some people will get a hit, on their intuition, right? So let me just tell you right off the bat, your intuition and your emotions for most people are wrong. It'll guide you into the wrong direction. And I know that's a brash statement, because you know in every self-improvement book and every emotional book that you listen to or you read to, it's like, follow your heart, right? Your mother even tells you that, honey, follow your heart and stuff. And then where does your heart take you, right? It takes you into, and that's where there's a lot of shipwrecked souls, basically, right? In the relationship field, right? Because they followed their heart. So what the hell happened there? Or you follow your intuition, a gut instinct on buying a stock, and then that stock tanks, and then you want to follow your intuition. That's why I say your intuition and your emotions, basically, which are kind of connected together, it's all wrong. It's all wrong the way most people see it, or the way most people use it. I'm not saying not to use those, but you need to recalibrate your intuition, recalibrate your emotions so they're beneficial for you. And that's what we can talk about: how to recalibrate your intuition, why it's all wrong, where is it taking you, if it's not the right way.
I
Yeah.
think we've all had situations in our lives where, just as you've described, that's happened. It's like we followed our heart, we went with our gut, we followed our instincts, and it kind of led
Mhm.
us astray or led us down the wrong path. So
Absolutely.
how do we know if that intuition or those instincts are to be followed or not to be followed?
We'd have to look at the mechanics or the science behind where intuition comes from. But your emotions and your intuition, so to speak, are just tools. They're tools used by your underlying program. So if your underlying program, for example, is, well, I always get shortchanged, people always take advantage of me, I always do have to do the hard work, or I never get, say, I always get rejected, or on the flip side as well, I'm always lucky, I always get the big breaks, I always get whatever. So whatever program that you're running on the deep level, okay, your core level, your intuition and your emotions are calibrated to making that program come true. So this is where people follow their hearts, follow their gut instincts, follow their whatever, even follow their spirit guides, because that's all based on your underlying program as well. I know there's a lot of spiritual people, they follow their spirit guides, and it doesn't get them anywhere. So the reason why, again, is what you have to do is, again, adjust your underlying program, and then your emotions and your intuition start to work for you.
So,
Right?
just coming back to what you said earlier, that your intuition is wrong, is what I'm hearing you say, that the reason that your intuition is wrong is because your underlying programming is the problem. And the
Right.
work that you've done over the course of many years with hundreds of thousands of people, you
Yeah.
have, and you know intimately that 99% of people have their programming wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah, their program isn't even theirs. Their program is what I always say. Their program is the last version of their mom and dad when you
Mm.
were born. It's the latest software update, so to speak, of your mom and dad's patterns. And then, you get that. So you're running with all your mom and dad's, patterns that aren't, say, the best. And then you add some of your stuff on. And then if you have kids, well, you pass that on to your kids, and so on and so on and so on. People who awaken through the 18-day hyper meditations and so on like that, they start to see what genetic patterns, not just, facial structure, skin color, eye color, but you see, oh my God, I can't believe that I passed that, abuse pattern in relationships onto my kids or my daughters, right? They start to see the pattern that they say again, hand down. So again, the key, if you want to follow your intuition, is one, understand where your intuition has gotten you in the past. Just jot down notes. It's like, okay, back in the day, I followed my gut instinct, and then it led me to a situation, and it was good for me or it was bad for me. Like love, you fell in love. Look where it got you. Look at the logistics and go, how, why did my intuition or why did my heart lead me to that relationship that, say, abused me or destroyed me or whatever? Okay. You start to, and it's not about, the poor me type or the victim type, but you start to look backwards and you go, oh, these are the mechanics. And then you'll start to see the underlying program on why again, your emotions lead you to that effect. And then you start to change your underlying programs, which is really important. And it's more productive than trying to change your psychology through like NLP and, all those self-improvement classes or courses that people take, right?
So
This is about
going
changing
through
your underlying structure.
your underlying structure. And so going through, this is a great exercise that you've just posed, to our viewers and listeners, to do that exercise and to think back on moments in your life when you had, listened to your instincts and went with your intuition. Did it lead to a good or a bad result? And what I
Yes,
suspect would happen in doing so is that you will look at that and probably see a pattern of
absolutely.
where your programming is misaligned or not working to your benefit, which then helps you to know which path to go. We of
Mhm.
course suggest XI because that's what
Yes,
really helps you to reprogram yourself.
right.
Is Moss, in your view, or is intuition the same thing as instinct? Is going with your gut the same thing as intuition? Are these different principles, or are they really one and the same? It's just different ways of expressing it.
Okay, so say that, and this has happened to, I'm sure, plenty of you. So it's happened to me, where you're in a dire situation, right? And your emotions tell you one thing, and then your instincts take over, and then protect you. Does that make
Mm,
sense? And
yes.
then it saves you. So here's where your intuition is right or your emotions are right. And then this is where they're wrong. Okay. Or again, most of the time wrong. When it's a dire situation, when you're not supposed to die, it's not your time to die or get injured or again be in an extreme situation, your higher self is watching over you all the time. Okay. It's watching over you, and then it's seeing what you're doing, and it's like, oh gosh, if they use their emotions on this one, or if they use their intuition on this one, they're going to get messed up. So it's kind of like a parent watching a child, right? You're going to see it's like, well, they can do a lot of stuff here and there. I mean, they get hurt a little, they get scratched up, it's okay. But, if they're going to fall off that ledge, they're going to die. So basically, your higher self just comes in and like kicks out your intuition and it kicks off your emotions and then it takes over. And then that's where you think your intuition and your emotion was right. Does that make sense to you? Your higher
Yeah.
self or a higher guidance or God or your angels or whatever you want to think, it's basically your higher self that goes, damn, I better step in and take over. And you'll see
So
that if you start to notice that or those moments, there's kind of a blank in you.
mm,
You don't remember what took over, but something saved your ass,
yeah.
basically. That's your higher self.
Yeah, I love that. And so it sounds like really intuition, emotions, they they they're two separate things,
They
and
are.
both can lead you to either the right path or in some
Mhm.
cases the wrong path.
Right.
The
Absolutely.
underlying message though in this conversation is make sure that you are right first. Make sure that
Right.
you're programming yourself, that you've been programmed properly, so
Right.
that no matter which one gets triggered, that it would lead
Mhm.
you in the right direction.
Absolutely.
So you
So
mentioned, Moss, that there are some different levels of intuition. And
yes,
I think you also have your remarkable tablet ready,
yes,
so we can, for those who are watching, we can show that on the screen, but we'll do our best to also audibly explain what we're talking about as we go through this.
absolutely.
But I would
Yeah.
love for you to explain the different levels of intuition. So I'll bring this up on the screen, and
A-
then when you're
And by the
ready.
way, guys, my obviously my drawing, I'm not an artist, but you get the picture. You'll get the picture. So, so here you are, okay, and you're having a good time, um, and there, you're having a great time. That's you, okay. So a lot of times your intuition might come from your gut, okay. Sometimes it comes from your heart. Sometimes it comes from wherever else, right? You get that feeling, you get that notion. Sometimes it's a feeling, sometimes it's an insight, sometimes it's a flash. Sometimes your body might tingle or whatever, and to tell you that you're on the right space. So where does that come from? Again, these are very different than emotions. Your emotions, again, there's plenty of them. Those are more physical, say, GPSs for you to get to that direction, again, of whatever your underlying programming is. But intuition allows you to expand your knowledge or how you access knowledge. So there are several ways on where we say access or how you access it. Most of your intuition comes from these sources, not your own. And that's the key. And I just want to repeat that. Your intuition does not come from your own source. And that's where it gets, say, distorted. Okay. So you're here. And these are all examples. And I can explain, I'm not going to explain the deeper science, but there is a deeper science on this. Say that your grandfather, loved you a lot. Okay. He took care of you a lot. And this is actually a true life story, although the person that I'll talk about and I'll even explain might not believe it. But anyway, that grandfather loved this person a lot. Okay. And then the grandfather dies. So that grandfather is here, for example, is here, and he dies. So he's no more. Okay. So he disappears. He basically ends up going to a higher level. So he exists. He did know how to die, say, properly. Okay. And this is the key. Most people don't know how to die properly. So there is a veil here. There we go. So there's a veil. This is life. This is death. So basically, that grandfather loves you a lot. He didn't know how to die properly. You didn't know how to let go of him properly. He takes care of you. So basically, you've got that connection. And depending on where you are, you might have felt his love in your heart, or in this person's case, in the head area.
Mhm.
Okay. So
Mhm.
now his consciousness, and again, it's not your dead grandfather talking to you, but because he's gone, but the consciousness exists in this realm. So this consciousness is still open. Okay.
Mhm.
Because again, it didn't close properly. So you're connected to that consciousness. And then say that, for example, that you get into an accident, okay, a debilitating accident. And then this consciousness starts to give you information on how to heal your body.
Hmm.
And then you perform a miracle. And then although you might not know that connection, it's still there for you. And then you start to heal your body. And then you think it's a miracle. And then you start to understand or want to understand the science behind it. Since you didn't know that connection of what actually healed you, you would think it's your intuition or it's logic, because this person is very scientific. Do you want to know who I'm talking about, by the
Sure.
way? Joe
Yes.
Dispenza. Joe
Oh,
Dispenza.
Joe Dispenza.
Yeah. I love his contents. I love, what he does. But if you listen to him, he goes, there's always something that he can't explain, that's a higher order. I'm just explaining that for you. So anyway, so he used his intuition through his grandfather. So to say heal himself, because his
But
grandfather knew how to heal the physical body at that level.
but but the person who
Mhm.
is acting upon intuition or their
Yes,
instincts, or
Mhm.
they don't know that that's where it's coming from. Like, none
Yeah,
of us really have any idea of where is this feeling coming from, or this instinct, or
yes,
this intuition. So that's
absolutely.
kind of the unknown part, or the part I think that
That's
you're
the
describing
unknown
here.
part. The other aspect is people might have angels, you know, up
Mhm.
here, and they go, "Well, it's my angels that are talking to me." Again, it's just another rendition that you've created from a higher source. That is not yours. And again, that's connecting to you, giving you information. There's, say, dead people, for example. Another person, what's his name? John of God, for example.
Mhm.
He had great
Mhm.
intuition or intuitive.
Mhm.
And he basically said, I talked to dead doctors, the dead
So
doctors on
really,
the other side. And they
yeah, exactly.
chant.
He would do those surgeries where he'd be in Brazil, and then somebody would be in like another
Yeah.
country, and he would do surgery on them.
Yeah. So again, that's where most people get their intuition, mostly from dead people, a consciousness that they have connected to, a reality. So that's one aspect, dead people or a consciousness that's there. The other
Mm.
aspect or the other place where you can go is different dimensions of time or different dimensions of reality. So basically, at some level, especially during childhood, especially if you're lost or it's not the best environment, you see that this reality isn't the best for you. Okay, a reality is basically, or a dimension is a container of space and time, and you go, "Whoa, there's another reality here. That's really cool. I'm going to jump into this reality." So you jump into this reality, and you might have dream states, or you might have, imaginations, or you might even visit friends and so on, imaginary friends when you were younger. How many people did that, by the way?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and then as you age, as you get older, you might forget about those imaginary friends, which aren't so imaginary. They exist in this consciousness, but you're connected. So this reality or this dimension gives you, say, your intuition. There's more.
Okay.
There's there's your
I had a
intuition.
feeling there would be.
Yeah, there's intuition that can come from like higher, say, intelligent beings or higher dimensions of consciousness. I was talking about, say, a different reality. Okay.
Mhm.
So this is a different level of consciousness. So, for example, Nikola Tesla or any of great inventor, what do? They connect to a higher order, a higher consciousness. So realities and consciousness are different. So in this consciousness, you're at a level 0 here. This is Tesla here. And let's just for clarity, let's just remove these dead people. So anyway, so what happens is this is reality. This is physical reality here. The next layer is where most people die, and this is where that communication happens. Okay, higher levels of consciousness allow us so advanced technologies and so on. So, say for example, Tesla, he's over here. He'll ascend to, say, this consciousness where wireless communication is available to him to that day back in the whenever he was, like in the 40s, I believe, or
I can't
50s, right?
recall, but yeah, it was
Yeah,
it was
but around
some
that
time
time,
ago. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Back in the 40s and 50s, he could access, say, the knowledge or the concept of wireless technology because that technology existed in a higher level consciousness. So his intuition, he would just again connect to that, and that's where his inventions came from.
Moss, can I just ask you one question? Just speaking about
Mhm,
Nikola Tesla as an example,
mhm,
and let's say back in the 40s or 50s or whenever it was. I
mhm.
thought it was in the 50s, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Is in his case, he was tapping into this higher consciousness
Mhm,
where that existed, and
mhm.
was it just his imagination that brought him to that place where he could envision the invention that he would then go
No.
on to create?
Yeah, it's nothing up here. He literally,
I see.
if you really understood him, or people who go into, say, literally trance states where they literally exit their body And usually in spiritual experiences, they have somebody that watches that body so nobody intrudes, physically intrudes or shakes that body. But what Nikola Tesla, and that's why he always says, be alone, to be alone. That's his famous thing, because that's where he gets his insights and so on. But when he's
Yes.
alone, he literally exits his body. So it's a shell,
Right.
and his consciousness basically can disconnect and then literally live in this higher level plane. And it's just like having a body. It's kind of like having a dream state. You can do anything that you are, but he's very conscious of being at that level. And then what he does there, since he's conscious of it, he'll bring it down here and then recreate it in this reality.
Yep.
And that's how he worked in the ethers in his workshop. Does that make sense? And then
Right.
he brought that technology. So that's how intuition works. There's other aspects of intuition, where this is the dangerous part, by the way. And I'll just start all over here. Just delete that for you. Where you get into a group state, or you get into a spiritual, say, group where you meditate on your own, right? So
Mm-hmm.
now, you've got a couple people here meditating on their own. Well, you start to form what a mastermind, and a mastermind always, say again, gets created when there's two or more individuals. So you are a collective now here, and then your intuition comes from that collective. This is where gang mentality comes in. This is where, like, one person, like this collective, again, this collective creates a concept or an idea, and then the rest of the people get an intuitive hit that they should believe in this situation. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense to you?
Yeah.
I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but this is like Illuminati's. This is where gang mentality. This is where, some of the church groups, some of those things, they create such a strong mastermind, and then the initiation process is literally courting you or giving you a very direct communication. So their thoughts, they can control the mastermind. Their thoughts become your thoughts, and they're one and the same. And then
Right.
you think that whatever you believe in, and it's like, oh my goodness, that's what the general council believes in. It's like, how does that happen? We might be on sync. This is the reason why, because they control the mastermind when you connect. That's why they always have a lot of initiations, or in spiritual or in religious terms, it's that initiation process. They have a lot of rituals that they push you through. The reason why is it creates literally a synapse, an energetic synapse or a frequency synapse. Just like your brain, the more you use it, the stronger, bigger the synapse gets, right? For you to, for
Right.
memory. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, what happens is that you're controlled by that religion, whether you move away from it or not. It's the same thing as your family dynamics, by the way, right? Your family dynamics brings you that intuition that's run by your family, not you. So this is family. And again, let me just erase this again. And I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you, but this is
Oh, this
you.
is great. This is
Yeah, this
great
is
because
you.
we get to see your handiwork as we
Oh,
are watching the video. Those who
yeah,
are listening to the audio version, I would encourage you, while Moss is drawing this, I would encourage you to come back to the YouTube channel and check out Exponential Intelligence on the YouTube channel, because then you'll see this handiwork of Moss's here. But what you've done, I think, Moss, so far, and I know you're continuing on your
mhm,
next image here, but to talk about all the different sources of
yeah,
intuition and how they really come to be.
right.
So this one here is about family.
Yeah, this is your family mastermind. This is where you can't get away. This is where your intuition, again, is guided by the family principles. Does that make sense? So your
Yeah.
intuition, your emotions, and all that stuff, especially in deep or very strict cultural families, right? You can't get away from that, or you can't escape from it. You even use your intuition and you can't escape, because, again, the family mastermind has been created over generations, and it's very, very powerful. And again, the synapse, the frequency synapse between you and the family, are very strong. So you can walk away from the family physically, but it doesn't matter. You're still connected to it. You just still pass that on to your genetics. With XI, what we actually do is delete these patterns completely. So there's no connection to the family mastermind. And this is where you get your own intuition. So I want to go through the steps. Is there psychedelics. Might as well just cover that as well. While we're at it, you're in a group state, for example, and this is where, doing ayahuasca ceremonies with a bunch of
Mhm.
people, not a good thing, because what this is, and this gets even a little deeper for it. This is the mastermind that you create, being in that ceremony. Okay. The teacher, not the best, especially these days. I'm not knocking anybody down, but I haven't seen any proper, say, individuals that can run an ayahuasca ceremony. I haven't met them all, but the ones I have, not that powerful. So the teacher is here, okay, or the coordinator is here, right? You're this collective, and whether he's in it or not, it doesn't really matter. But most likely, they're not in this collective. They keep themselves separate. He calls in, or they call in, another consciousness here that connects to the mastermind. And this is where your journey begins. That makes sense to you.
Mhm.
So, what happens is that this teacher has to be clean and provide one, is this a powerful source, a pure source that is beneficial to connect to the group? Usually it's not. It's usually a
Oh.
source that sucks the life out of you. This is where people will have fantastic ayahuasca experiences, because because this power or this intelligence is of a higher order. It'll feel really good, but then later on you'll get drained after an ayahuasca experience. It might be 3 months, it might be 6 months. Your life kind of goes downhill or gets kind of fucked up. Although you'll go back to that time and go, God, that was a great ayahuasca experience. I better go back and do it again. Although your life got messed up, because you were at a high. So anyway, this power controls the mastermind, which then starts to control you. And say this person has an issue, and you are empathic. You're right
Mm.
here. You're an empath. And when you create a mastermind, again, XI masterminds are very, very different. This person's problems, if you're an empath, becomes yours.
Right.
So again, that's where your intuition, and then the reason why it's all connected to intuition, you'll get guided, you'll get intuitive hits to get into situations of what this person is getting into, because now you just grab their programming. Does that all make sense? So you
Yeah.
gotta watch out on your intuition. When
Mhm.
people pray and they go, help me with money or help me become successful. God doesn't really answer. And then eventually it's like, please, can anybody help me? Or, that God that comes in is not really God. It's like, yeah, it's a bright light and it looks like God. And you don't, and you go, oh, it must be God. So what happens is
Because
that
you're doing it out of desperation. You're in
you're
that
doing it out
desperate
of desperation, right?
desperation.
And there's a higher, say, consciousness, that needs you, that needs to suck the life out of you. This is called selling your soul,
Mm.
or the sins of the father, by the way. So what happens there is that this higher source, you pray to it. Again, you're right here. You're right here. You pray to the higher source. You think it's a pure source because it'll illuminate you. It'll give you the things that you want. It'll give you the right information and so on, like that, because that connection is there. Basically, what they're doing is, again, it's creating more trust. It's like, yep, I trusted whatever connection or guide or spirit guide. I trusted whatever connection, and they were right. So what do? You get faith in them, right? And you get to the point that you are, say, faithful to them. because they've been right so far. And then this is where your intuition starts going wrong. Because once they have you, they start to control you. And this is where, again, you start to get the life sucked out of you. Or
Mm.
in many cases, from the family lineage, if it's from a dark source, um, or if you think your family is cursed and all that stuff, the more you use your intuition, the more messed up you get at a physical level. So this is the reason why,
Oof.
because
It's
because
it's
this source,
fascinating.
yeah, this source charges you for your intuition. So XI does it very differently.
Thankfully.
Yes. So so so
Thankfully.
um, yes. So XI allows you to again tap into your higher self, tap into the higher consciousness, and I'll do one last drawing the way you should do intuition. Okay, and this is what we teach in the 18 days and the higher level self-actualization, total human reset coming up again to awaken. This is how your intuition, your gut instincts, and all that stuff work. Okay, but again, one more drawing on that is that you are here. You're here, and there's again different layers of consciousness here above you. Okay, this is basically consciousness of the dead. This is where most people end up when they die. Okay, so it's just that veil over because they don't know how to die properly. This is where I said Tesla, would go up there. But Tesla even did it wrong, and so does most inventors, because that's where they, as they age, they get messed up. So this is the way you want to do your intuition, and this is what XI is about. You're here, okay? You're in a single point of time. You're in the
Mhm.
fourth dimension, and there's a time coordinate, there's a space coordinate. Again, you are on X. You're at the 0 point of where you should be. What XI teaches you is that yeah, there's different layers of consciousness that you can get into. There's different dimensions or different realities that you can tap into. There's even, say, dead people that you can connect to. There's higher levels of intelligence, that you can connect to up here. But what you want to do is not channel, because all those other examples that I gave you, they channeled, if you notice, the knowledge into them, which
Mhm.
is very inaccurate as well. I didn't talk about the inaccuracy of your intuition, but the reason, if you channel, again, like John of God would channel dead doctors, one,
Mhm.
those doctors weren't, say, the cleanest, by the way. They had their personal problems that got mixed into John of God, and that's why John of God got into trouble, let's say. But then when you channel through your emotions. And if you're having a bad day, your emotions are warped, and then your intuition doesn't come out properly. Does that make sense? Or it
Mhm.
comes off. So what you want to do, again, and people go, I'm very intuitive. I kind of am, but it's just me. There's no difference, right? Although for the closest example, it's like, yes, I'm very intuitive. But what I do, okay, is literally I keep myself at ground zero, and then I expand myself to the consciousness that I want to get to. That makes sense.
Mhm.
I don't create, again, a tunnel. I don't create a wormhole. I literally expand. It's called inner expansion. I expand myself into the consciousness. Say, for example, this is Tesla's, say, ingenious, where he got his ingenious ideas. What he would do is leave his body here. He would go up here, do his lab work, come back down, and he'd misplace himself. So that's why over time he'd get a little senile. What I do again is like you stay dead center where you're supposed to be. You expand your consciousness into the reality or the consciousness that you want to get into. It bypasses your emotional filters. It bypasses your genetic filters, your abuse patterns, your whatever patterns that you have. It bypasses it. And if you've noticed the way I read people or scan people, it's dead on. It's because I don't use my emotions. I just literally expand into, um, say, that consciousness. So, for example, if you're Jane Doe and your consciousness exists here, okay, This is Jane's consciousness, for example. Okay. This is Jane's consciousness. I literally would expand myself into, say, Jane's consciousness, and I can plug into Jane's consciousness and see her experiences the way she would see it without my filters.
Mm,
So
yeah.
again, that's very different than intuition. I'm literally plugging into your consciousness, but you have to be at a like an admin level to do that. And then when I'm done, I unplug, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so this expansion that
Mhm.
you do is
Yeah.
something that you also really, it's the foundation of what you talk about with inner expansion and what
Mhm.
the work of XI really is,
Absolutely.
you
Yep.
know.
Yeah. And the cool thing about it is that, say Jane can't see her possibilities because she's stuck in her rut right here. She's stuck in her little world, right? She's stuck in this little circle. But if you're expanding into, say, Jane's consciousness, any thread that's connected to this sphere where Jane exists, I can see for her. And it's like, hey, Jane, there's another version of you right here. That's a better version of you. That's right next
Mhm.
door. Why don't
Yeah.
you go there? And this is where
Which
you're, this is
which
where
really
you're,
taps into the gift that you have,
hmm,
so when we see you on, for example, we see you on Moss on Sunday, on,
yep,
and you're doing live scans with people.
yep,
That's essentially what you're doing, is you're tapping in and you're helping Jane to see the other version of herself that she could also tap into. It's right there, but she's just not able to see it for what it is. So I mean, that's
absolutely.
what
That's
you're
really the
doing.
core of what I do, and
Yeah.
again, this is so, like if I'm here, again, I'm here, uh I'm tapping into Jane. Her consciousness might be, again, this is Jane's consciousness, and she's trapped in a box, for example. She doesn't know how to get out of that box, right? Because she can't see past for whatever reason. But again, if I expand myself to hit, say, Jane's consciousness, again, it's a bad drawing, but do you get the picture, right? It's about, does that make sense? Is that a clear drawing? So I
Yeah.
keep expanding myself, but I'm centered here.
Yeah,
I'm still
that's right.
centered. So this is Jane's consciousness. This is like, oh, I can see why your life is the way it is. But then over here, Jane, it's another version of you that is much better off that you might not see. So once I open this place up for her, she gets to see this consciousness and she literally jumps over to that. And that's how you heal, by the way. That's how you heal people. So it's not psychology or anything like that, but that's how. But that goes beyond your intuition. So again, this is the way your intuition should work, and this is the way where. And by the way, this is your higher intelligence. Remember in the beginning of the podcast, I mentioned that there's a difference between, what did you say? Intuition, and then
And
uh,
emotion.
not emotion, but intuition and a gut reaction, or intuition, not a gut
Oh, and your
reaction.
instinct?
In instincts, yes. So your instincts, if it's calibrated properly, your instincts come from your natural intelligence, your autonomic nervous system that basically knows the arena or your environment. So again, your autonomic nervous system is the thing that runs your heart, your blood pressure, your eyesight, all the details that you don't think about. It's automatic, right? There's a super intelligence or a natural intelligence. Let's just call it a super intelligence that runs your system. Okay. So when you expand the way I just showed you, you naturally tap into your super intelligence. So the two, your instincts and your intuition, merge together, and it becomes a powerful source, and it feeds upon each other, and you become more and more accurate. And then it bypasses, the bad day that you had, or whatever, because you're removing your filters from it, and you get a better, clear vision, and you get to see what it is without your filters in it. So
It's brilliant. Thank you so much, Moss, for sharing that. I think that our viewers on the YouTube channel who are
mhm,
subscribed, and encourage you to subscribe to the channel on YouTube so that you never miss an episode of Exponential Intelligence on the video side, but also on the audio side. So for those of you who like to run and to listen while you're walking or, doing things in the house, what have you, you can also listen to Exponential Intelligence on download, obviously from your favorite podcast platform. So Mas, thank you so much. I know this was a bit longer of an episode, but we got into some really deep stuff around intuition today. And I think we're all better for it because we've learned a whole bunch more about intuition than I probably ever thought we could. So thank you so much.
Thank you, hon. Thank you.